Hey guys, coming with me another movie, guys. Continuing my 31 days of horror movie reviews. This is day 15, and this movie we're reviewing, I've wanted to see this for a while. I actually wanted to review it last year, and for whatever reason, I didn't. I don't know why I didn't. I didn't feel like watching it. I don't know what was wrong with me. I didn't watch it for whatever reason last year, but, I really wanted to, but I, for whatever reason, didn't, and I don't know why. But I finally watched this movie, and this is another franchise that I will be starting because I want to do at least one other franchise for you guys before I start the last franchise, which you guys probably know what it is. But that movie is the 1968 horror classic Night of the Living Dead. Night of the Living Dead is a film I've wanted to see for so long. I've heard amazing things about it, and I was gonna watch it last year. I started watching the color version last year, and I turned it off because it looked like shit. Never watch. Please don't ever watch this movie in color. Just don't. It's a terrible, horrible decision. Just don't do that. It does not look good at all. But this was a film I was definitely very interested in for quite a few reasons, and I definitely really wanted to see it. And after watching it, I have to say that Night of the Living Dead is definitely one of the best horror films ever made. It is quite scary. It is an amazing movie and really does deserve to be considered a fantastic horror film overall. Now, the plot to this movie is very, very simple. It's nothing really that hard to understand. It's a very easy movie to understand. Basically, there is a zombie apocalypse, of course, going on, but they never refer to them as zombies in this movie. They call them the living dead in this movie. There are all these living dead monsters outside, and basically there are 5 characters. There are 7 people trapped in a farmhouse in Western Pennsylvania. They're doing whatever they can to survive and basically not die, and that basically is the plot of Night of the Living Dead. Even though, some of them have some differences and reasons why they're there, and that's basically the plot of Night of the Living Dead, and I think it's a fantastic plot, and there's so many things I just really love about this movie. This is one of the riskiest films ever made, and I'll tell you guys why. First of all, let's get to the acting in this movie. You guys may notice that this movie was made in 1968. It was 1968, and we weren't as accepting back then of certain things. And one of the reasons I think the movie is, so loved today is because it was one of the first movies to actually cast a black actor in the main role. Dwayne Jones is our main character, Ben, in this movie, who is fantastic. And something I loved about this, about it, is that George A. Romero simply said that the reason he cast him is because he was just the best. That's why he casted him. He didn't really think anything of it, which I think is awesome. And he is fantastic in this role. He has everything down to a T. Ben is a great character. He's doing whatever he can to survive. He's a little bit, not all the way, he doesn't fully understand what's going on like everyone else does, but he is a very great character. I definitely really loved what his character did in the movie, and I thought he was definitely a really, really great leader, definitely, and he was fantastic. And I really feel like characters like Rick Grimes are very much inspired off of Ben. He might do some things that are a little bit irrational, but he does do whatever he can to survive, and I definitely really love that. I thought his character was fantastic. Definitely, I thought he was great. Although you can say that sometimes his characters and things are kind of safe, that are kind of too safe too, but he doesn't really fully understand what's going on. He's trying to help out everyone, and I definitely like that about his character. Judith O'Dea as Barbara is also great in this movie. She has a lot going on with her because she actually, in the first scene of this movie, is with her brother who gets taken away by, the living dead, and she doesn't know where he went and things like that. And it's very interesting to see her journey in this movie. She has this one scene in the very beginning of the movie, and it almost brought me to tears. She really was incredible. She did a great job, and she doesn't have much screen time as you think she does, but when she's in it, she is fantastic, and she did a fantastic job, definitely. As did the rest of the cast. Carl Hardman was really good as Harry Cooper, and so was Marilyn Eastman as Helen Cooper. I think everyone overall was really good. Nothing else to say about the other actors in this film, but they all really did a terrific job, and I think as an ensemble, they definitely worked very, very well together. The real star of this film, I think, is the directing and the screenplay. George A. Romero's directing in this movie is very interesting. It was very different. It was a very different time for movies in 1968 than it was then. First of all, this of course was the first, movie about zombies ever made. That's why this movie is so I think, fascinating, because this was back when people didn't even know what the word zombie meant. They never heard that term before, and obviously this was quite scary for them. And I think the fact that George A. Romero's just direction, very grim, very dark direction, was perfect for this movie. He made it as realistic as possible and said, you know what, let's just do this in a way where I can just tell a realistic story, and that really is what he did. And I thought his directing was spot on. Definitely did a very good job, and I thought he overall was great in term with his directing. The writing as well, I thought was, though I said, the writing I think is the most impressive thing about this movie, definitely. Because of the fact that this movie really held nothing back. There was nothing held back in this movie. This movie should not have been able to do some of the things that they did in this movie, but they were able to. And something I definitely really loved is the way they portray the living dead in this movie. This was the first movie to ever show deaths and actual blood on screen. There was a rule back then that you really weren't allowed to do that, but George A. Romero was like, fuck it, I'm gonna do it. And that's why he's known as one of the greats in terms of directors, and that's why I think the screenplay turned out as well as it did. A lot of this movie is a character piece. It's us seeing the motives of all these characters and why they're in this house, and how they're all just, the similar thing they're all trying to do is survive, and yeah, that very much is true. But I think the screenplay is very rich as well. It's a film where you really don't know what's going to happen next, and I definitely really did love that about the movie. I thought that was definitely very well done. My only complaint with the film is that I think the second half of this movie got a little bit slow and not as interesting as the first half and the third half of this movie. I thought it was a good second half overall, but I thought it was a bit slow, but I did think the screenplay overall was great. And something I thought was really interesting is a way to, again, this was the first zombie movie ever made. Remember that. There were no other films. There wasn't a, and if this had not been successful, there wouldn't be things like The Walking Dead or Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, any of the ones that followed that, which I am watching both of those, by the way, and that'll be the next two movies I review, is Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead. But the thing about this movie is the way they deliver information I found very interesting. The whole movie, all they have is this TV screen, and this TV screen has all these news reports, and throughout the movie we see different news reports basically telling them, here's what we're supposed to do when one of the living dead attacks, and this is really the film that inspired, killing, the only way to kill a zombie is to shoot them through the head, how to prepare and things like that. It's very interesting to watch because you kind of think George A. Romero made up all this stuff on his own. He obviously didn't know, what to do, but he made this stuff up on his own, and it's lived on today, which I think is very interesting. I definitely really love that. The way that a film that was made in 1968 that still goes with the rules of zombies today is very interesting, and I definitely really love seeing that, I have to say. That's really something I thought was very well done about the writing, and it really got rid of any necessary exposition we needed. I thought the exposition was delivered very well, and I definitely thought that was very well done. And the movie's also very scary. You feel like you're trapped in this house with them. You don't know what's going to happen next. I mean, imagine being an audience member in 1968, and you've never heard the term zombies, living dead, nothing like that. You go to the theater, you see this movie, obviously you'd be pretty terrified. That's really what you have to do with this movie. You have to pretend that you've never seen another zombie movie before, because that's what makes it so scary, is the fact that there are these zombies out there, the fact that this could happen, the fact there is an epidemic like this. It's terrifying to think about. Just the concept of living dead in general is terrifying. The fact that there are these zombies and they crave brains and they want to go after you is also very interesting. And we don't fully understand what they're doing in this movie. And that's something else I really liked, is that they don't ever really tell you what these zombies are doing. You just know they're out there and they're killing people, and I don't know if eventually they expand upon it. I don't know what Dawn of the Dead does, but you can definitely tell that they start to develop some of the mythology that we know for zombies today in this movie, and that's something I really appreciate, I have to say. I thought that was definitely very well done, and I really love that. And the cinematography of this movie is truly terrifying. Now, this movie didn't have much of a budget. It really didn't. It only had, $114 million dollars, and it made 30 million, which is incredible that it made up 30 million back, which was pretty good for, I think, its box office. But it only had $114,000, and it made back 30 million, which is incredible that it made more than it, even was made to, because it wasn't made for a whole lot, which I think is definitely very interesting. And you would think that it was, because the cinematography is absolutely incredible for this movie. These things look terrifying. I mean, just look at the girl on the thumbnail of this video. She looks like she's ready to just eat you and tear you to shreds. It's pretty terrifying to watch, and that's something I definitely really appreciate about this movie. They look real. They look like they don't even look like they are actual actors playing these characters. They look like they are actual people that are living, that are just the living dead, and that they're not alive. It's very terrifying to think about, and that's something I really did appreciate in this movie and really enjoyed. Definitely, I thought the very good cinematography, very scary, and really did enjoy that. And a lot of the movie, you're in this house. That's where you are for most of the movie. But when you're not in the house, even when you're in the house, you know scary stuff happens. Shit goes down in that house, and it is pretty scary to think about. And I definitely really did like that, and it is definitely very scary at points. But what I did like about this movie, there's actually not a lot of kills in this movie. Like I said, this was back when they really couldn't do that, but they did do some. There's about 5 of them, and they're all very well done. And I like this movie wasn't just let's kill this person, kill this person, kill this person. It was much more dialogue focused because that's how horror movies were back then, and that's something I definitely really appreciate about this movie. The score to this movie is pretty cheesy now. I will say that. I like the score. It's cheesy now, but back then I can understand how it was terrifying. It is a dark score. It is pretty scary. It does play when tension happens and things like that, but it is kind of cheesy now, and it's not really a complaint. It's just that that's kind of how the film is dated. It's not like Psycho, which is a very iconic horror score. I do think this is a good horror score. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that nowadays, I don't think it's as impressive as it was back in the 60s, and if you guys aren't impressed by it, I can understand that. The editing, I thought, was perfect to this movie. I thought the editing was great. The movie's really short as well. I was surprised by how short it was, but honestly, I was fine that it had to be that short, because again, I don't think audiences would want to sit through a 2-hour movie like this because they'd just be too scared, and I think George A. Romero figured, you know what, let's just make this short so the audience can leave, scared and things like that. And I thought that was definitely very genius the way he did that, and something I really enjoyed seeing, I have to say. And the first scene of this movie as well, I forgot to say, is pretty scary. Something else I forgot to say about this movie, this was originally co-written as a horror comedy, and was originally going to be called Monster Flick, and thank God it wasn't a horror comedy, because I don't think that's something that we really need. I think you can only tell so many movies about aliens and monsters that they need to do something different, and I definitely really admire the fact that George A. Romero did something different from this movie. I really enjoyed. The sequels, Dawn of the Dead and The Day of the Dead, are mainly supposed to be just the second and third parts, because George A. Romero said that the entire story is supposed to be a 3-part story, and I think that definitely is very interesting, and we'll have to see what happens in Dawn of the Dead, which I think is going to be a lot bigger. I heard Dawn of the Dead is bigger than this movie, definitely, which I am definitely looking forward to seeing what happens in Dawn of the Dead. I don't really know exactly what happens in that movie, but I heard it's quite scary, and I can't wait to see what happens in that. I've heard it's even more graphic than this one, and I definitely really love seeing that. Also, the climax of this movie, holy shit, I did not see that coming at all. There is something that happens towards the end of this movie, and it is the point where you're just like, holy shit, it cannot get worse. And it does, it gets worse, and I absolutely love that. Just, again, it was made in 1968, it doesn't hold back, and that's another reason why I think the film holds up very well today. And it's a movie where, if you've never seen a zombie film, which I'm sure you have, this is a good first one. This really represents Halloween very well, and especially if you want to see how horror movies got started and part of why zombies are so iconic today, you got to watch this movie, because they weren't out there yet, and it's an incredible movie. Really, it's scary. It's a really terrifying journey, and it's something that I definitely really enjoyed. And I'm gonna give Night of the Living Dead a 4.5 out of 5 or an A. I absolutely loved this movie. I can't wait for Dawn of the Dead. I was very impressed by it. While I said there are a few things that were a bit slow and that the score might be a bit cheesy, it overall still holds up very well today, and I overall really did enjoy it. And I think you guys should definitely check it out and give it a watch. But that is my review, Night of the Living Dead. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I know you guys saw this movie, have seen it. I absolutely love this movie. I highly recommend you guys check it out. Even if you are not really into black and white movies, don't ever watch The Color. Just don't. And I'll tell you guys why you don't want to watch The Color. The Color version of this movie looks like something looks very cheesy. It looks very cheap. And it looks very obvious that it was post-converted, and it looks very bad. Some look very good when they're put to color. This is not one of those movies. Mainly because this movie didn't have a lot of budget. I think that's why it doesn't look good in color, and I would prefer watching black and white. It's scarier that way. Don't watch it in color. Color makes this look like a comedy. It's really stupid. Don't ever do that. It's a horrible, horrible mistake. In fact, I almost watched it in color, and I'm like, oh no, I'm watching this in black and white. Thank God I did, because the movie's a lot scarier that way, and I don't think it's very scary in black or in color at all. It's really not. Let me know what you guys saw this movie have seen. I absolutely love this movie. And we'll see you guys in the next video, which will be zombie related again, because it will be for tonight's episode of The Walking Dead, which was not intentional, guys. That's just how this worked out. But I can't wait to watch Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead, which I will be reviewing for you guys later this week. Hopefully they come Tuesday and Wednesday, hopefully. And I will see you guys for those reviews. Let me know what you guys saw this movie. I will see you guys in my next video, which will be for tonight's episode of The Walking Dead, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.